See if she can log back on.
All right, we're gonna have to wait until she logs back in.
We'll pause.
Yeah, must be I bet it's a connection issue where she is.
Kim, can you hear us okay?
Yes, I can.
Because I know our internet's been interesting this morning with all the construction, so hopefully it's not us.
Yes.
Oh, really? Oh, okay.
It's getting wild around here. It's picking up pace.
Oh my.
Just for the record, everyone, when Dr. Scott logs back on, if we can just kind of run through and get her exception for approving the agenda and approving the minutes, just for the record.
Okay.
Hello, I'm back. Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Yes, ma'am. Loud and clear.
Oh,
Everything good? All good. Well, now we have you back, Dr. Scott. If we could, we're going to get your approval of the agenda. Do you approve?
Yes, you do have my approval.
And then finally, can we get you approved the minutes from our last committee meeting?
Yes.
Very
I
good.
do have
For the record, we're
give
good
that
to go.
approval as well.
All right, so we have two district accomplishments. I want to invite Kim Hunter to expand on those. And luckily, it kind of leads into the next of unfinished business, both 5.3 and 5.4, classified staff roundtable and our restorative practices. So definitely want to celebrate this. So as Kim, I'll let you speak on it, but I'll actually pull it up so everyone can kind of see as you guide us through. How's that?
Okay, that sounds great. All right, so very excited to, Dr. Scott, are you still there? Want to make sure.
Yes,
Okay.
I'm here.
I just want to make sure you're there. Okay. Very excited to talk about the convening of different instructional assistants, as well as other people across the district that participate in some type of capacity of having to work with our students with de-escalation and regulation. We had about 40 participants. Every school was invited to send at least one representative of that worked primarily with supporting teachers before admin. But admin, if they chose to come, they were able to come as well. And so it began, of course, with us doing a pulse check, still trying to emphasize the importance of our conscious discipline strategies, in the importance of ensuring that the adults in the building are good before jumping into the work. So after that work was done, we were able to share some highlights. And Matt, you can go up a little. And the slide that I didn't talk a lot about was the behavior interventionist. I did invite them to participate with this training to model for them the types of work in hopes that they can continue in the schools in which they are working with. So it was kind of a train the trainer model for the behavior interventionist alongside the work that was done for the participants. So we jumped right into the suspension data. They really were very appreciative because in their capacities, they don't get to see a lot of data. And so that was one of the things that I was just thrilled to hear the high, I would say the processing of the data. I even came back and told Matt a lot of the insights were even more insightful than some of the administrators. And it's because they could make those immediate connections, because even though they might have not been trained formally through, an academia process, they have that real-time evidence-based background. And so the conversations were so rich, which just created better engagement. We talked about the semester one data and just things that they, were able to recognize as aha moments, as well as the things that they had concern. One of the things in which they had concern was understanding, once I showed them the behavior matrix, and seeing how some schools still kind of operate on an emotional or knee-jerk reaction. And so they discuss how sometimes that creates limitations on the work that they do when they realize that the behavior should be slowed down and more interventions be used versus the strong consequences or level 2 and level 1 behaviors. And so that was exciting for me to hear that those that are serving as ISS monitors or those that are in a structural assistant capacities where they're working with kids, I was so excited to hear that they get the mindset that intervention should happen before consequences. We talked about all of the areas that contribute to student behavior, and I kind of highlighted that these are the areas in which I do a lot of teaching. And so the goal next year is to create more continual support, almost kind of even like a class, so to speak, a cohort of individuals that I am looking to be able to work with next year. A lot of you know that I already work for the College of Charleston with this type of work. So my hopes are some kind of way to see if we can even get them some credentials or some credit for the work that they would do next year. Then we ended with giving them some strategies to support with regulation, because again, understanding that you yourself first have to be regulated in order to work with a child that's dysregulated. So this real-time help, getting them to, act it out and do some scenarios, just great, thoughtful work. Then we move forward into some creation and design. I don't like to end any type of work without individuals being able to take something back. And we allowed them to work in cohorts of whether you were in elementary, middle, or high. And I assigned a behavior interventionist to each group. And what they were able to do was to consider their current ISS space and envision one that addressed things from a restorative background. And so they all left, I still have the chart paper behind me, but they all left with something that they produced that they are looking to take back to their schools with hopes that they can refine or rebrand their settings. And so again, it was a worthwhile experience, truly enjoyed it. Just bragged about it. Matt probably was like, is it really that fun? Yes, it was really that fun. So again, I look forward to doing more work with them next year through, increased opportunities.
That was so much information and I really enjoyed it. Thank you so much for sharing that. Would we be able to get copies of the slide as well with the information? Because
Yes,
that
ma'am.
was
We'll be
great.
sure it's part of your committee minutes, and we'll share all the slides and everything. Absolutely. All right, next up.
And I'll also add, Dr. Elkins, the feedback that some of them provided so that you could have that as well.
Great. And thank you so much for taking the lead on that. I know it was amazing information shared, and I know the students are truly going to be able to benefit from that. And not only benefit from it, be able to change their behavior to make sure that everything is positive and they're moving forward. So thank you so much for sharing that information.
Of course, it's my pleasure. And Matt, you want me to jump right into the okay, so then the next level of development comes from a collaborative work that I am doing with Jeffrey McMicken, still trying to make sure that I'm aligning a lot of the work that I do with Avid Strategies. And so we also invited Craig Corner through the lens of special education so that we were making sure that we were addressing behavior through all lenses. And so this is work that we did with our assistant principals. We were able to do a cohort with elementary, high, and middle. And so this particular one is an example of creating a lot of rich dialogue around behavior and what behavior really means, what it looks like, how should we be utilizing the matrix, when should we be looking at interventions in lieu of suspensions and other consequences. So we created a very fun and engaging activity where administrators were clustered together, but not within their own teams. And it was a lot of thought processing, a lot of deep work behind behavior and what we do and how we need to be aware that a lot of what we do may be our emotional reactions instead of what is designed from a progressive lens of how we handle challenging behavior. So we had 3 scenarios presented, and the scenarios were real scenarios. So that come to our office. So the biggest shocker that came out of some of the dialogue was this made it to to student services. So you had an extreme of certain administrators that were like, yeah, I would have recommended that. And then you had others that were all the way on the other spectrum of that definitely should not have been a suspension. So it was good for them to hear the rich dialogue amongst their team. And one of the APs was so thankful. He even ended up writing an email, and he said that that was the best work that he had ever received since he's been an administrator in the district, from a collaborative lens and a learning lens. And so again, that creates hope for what we're trying to do in this division and with this committee, because it's not to take away from the work that's happened prior, but it's to bring our district back into compliance and understanding in areas where we are not. And so there was, again, rich conversation, great reflection, and the administrators also are looking forward to more opportunities. The other thing that I think we have to tackle, and Matt, this also came up in another training in which I did not participate. I allowed Dr. Flowers to participate. It was with the discipline secretaries. And one of the things that came up out of that conversation is hoping that we can do work to bridge APs and how they think about discipline and their principles. In many cases, there seems to be where there's some discontinuity. And so I think that would be, if I were to think of just a next step or another layer to the work, is how we can possibly bring our principals into the conversation regarding this type of work. So again, we were able to look at our data from an IEP lens, and Dr. Corner was there to answer a lot of questions. And then the last thing that I left them with was a wondering, because we talk a lot about chronic absenteeism, but a lot of the administrators did not realize that suspensions can lead to chronic absenteeism. They just thought that it was just, parents and not allowing their children to come to school. So it was an aha moment when they realized that that 30 number, that is the cap for the state for suspensions, it does count towards chronic absenteeism. So I left them with a little homework to delve into their data and to look at the students that had already reached a certain number of suspensions to determine if those students were in the chronic absenteeism category. And so I've had administrators to call asking about students and some strategies because they know that they're teetering close to that 30 range. And so again, I'm glad that this work is bringing some real-time reflection, and that even though this particular training happened at the end of the year, that administrators are still applying a lot of the strategies to end on a successful note. So again, it was another great opportunity, and I look forward to doing more work with administrators next year around behavior.
Thank you, Kim. You and your team have been busy. Dr. Scott, any reflections or questions?
Just a few questions. And again, thank you so much for that detailed presentation. And I truly understand when we're talking about the discipline as well as the principal, because many times, and we all know this, that students will say that the discipline wasn't fair. However, they don't know all the details that have gone in, and they don't know what we may have in place for different students, and we can't share that. So I do think it would be great to have the conversation with students as well as with the principal, so they can have an opportunity to understand that there are some things that we cannot share with them, but the discipline is going to always be fair, but may not be fair in the eyes of students because they don't have all the details. So I do appreciate that, and I think that's going to go well. So thank you.
Okay.
Very good. Well, while those are celebrations, those also kind of cover 5.3 and 5.4. So backtracking a little bit, let's take a look at an update on the alternate placement duration language. And I don't know why we're frozen. Oh, here we go. I don't know if I go to the right screen. So this is a document we created, and that's not the right one. Forgive me. Here we go. And it did go to senior leadership for some feedback. Let's see if I can enlarge it a little bit.
While you do that, Matt, can I interject?
Please.
So Dr. Scott, one of the things after you had done your report to the board around what was happening with what's been happening with the Alternative Pathways Committee, a couple of board members had asked, okay, so what should be the language that we use when we are, voting on placement in an alternative setting in lieu of expulsion? And so that's what this document is giving the entire board the language that should be used during that vote. So actually, because it's coming from your committee, it's your recommendation of what that language actually needs to be. So this is where we are right now, but we want to make sure that you are satisfied with, like, this is the language that the board should be using. And if you're good, once you are good, we'll put it in the board brief for all board members.
That language meets my satisfaction, but what I would like you guys to do is if you could get with Dr. Franklin, Marshall Franklin, and have her to review it, because it could be some missing components that I am not aware of, that maybe she can add some addition or subtraction to what we have. But what I've read, it sounds pretty good to me, but I would love to get her expertise in this because she's the one that really works with a lot of policies as well, and
So-
allow her to look at it as well as to align it with the other policies that we have. So did you have an opportunity to have her to review it, or you guys have not?
Yes, ma'am. So I took it to senior leadership, and of course,
Okay.
Marshall and Franklin was in there, and we had a
Yes.
discussion, and Dr. Franklin has been very consistent in what her recommendations are. And of
Okay.
course, Carla Hawkins is in senior leadership as well.
Yes.
And so Marsha Lynn's suggestion really is that the language needs to be, it doesn't need to tie into a particular time frame or anything like
Right.
that. That, the student appeal is granted with placement to an alternate setting would work,
Yes.
as long as the board also understands there are some key implementation rules that the district is going to be using. So not only here's the language, but these are the implementation rules about how long, when, how it's going to happen, whether there's going to be a virtual option, those kinds of things. So the board not only needs to know the language, but really the key implementation rules around performance indicators and implementation rules. So I want you to make sure that, you can hear Matt talk a little bit about those so that you're okay with it before it goes into the board brief.
And thank you so much, Dr. Morrison, for that information. I am fine with the language that we have here, so we can move forward with that.
Okay.
And
that sounds
I
good.
do want to say that I do appreciate the work and the time that you guys have actually put into this, because it's easy for me. You guys are doing all the work. So thank you
Yes, sir.
for making me look good, and I appreciate the time and effort that you put into it. And I'm pleased with what I've read.
Mhm.
So we're fine with that. We can proceed to the next level.
Yeah.
And again,
I
I'll make
just
sure
want
we
to
get it
say,
to a board brief to share.
Yes.
we need to go ahead and put it in the board brief this week, Matt.
Yes,
And the
ma'am.
only other suggestion from the senior leadership team is, you'll see at the bottom, Dr. Scott, that a student needs to be able to meet certain performance indicators in order to go back to their zone school. And the only suggestion from Marshall Lynn and senior leadership is that we can't keep a student in an alternative setting forever. So it needs to be limited. Like they would only, even if they don't meet the performance indicators, we would only keep them, up to 1 year or to the end of the school year. And then that's it. So that we're not keeping kids based on performance indicators in an alternative setting, beyond that. Does that make sense to you, Dr. Scott?
Let me make sure I'm clear. You said keeping them in up to 1 year.
Well, up to the end of the school year.
Okay.
Because they have to meet certain performance indicators to be able to go
Right.
back to their zone schools.
Absolutely. Okay,
Yeah.
that's fine.
Okay.
I'll have it ready. All right, next up, I believe this item, Dr. Scott, you want to discuss was virtual options for middle school discipline. Yes, ma'am. 5.2. Did you want to have a conversation about our options that currently exist?
I'm sorry, Matt, repeat that.
Next up is 5.2. I believe you shared a point of you wanted to discuss a little bit about the middle school virtual options. Would you like to discuss that? Okay.
Yes. Did you guys have an opportunity to do any research on middle school for me?
Absolutely. I can tell you what we currently have in place. With
Okay.
the pilot that Kim and I started this year working with Dr. Manigault and her program, again, it mirrored the template of the P2P program. And so we were able to pilot both middle school and high school students who are assigned to Blackfoot Academy. If there's specific reasons, whether it's a hardship, whether there's we need to separate students that are involved in a situation, or if it came down to a transportation issue, we are able to place some middle school students. So that is currently happening with Emily's program. The stipulations that do apply is while capacity exists. So while she does have some room in 7th and 8th grade, as those classrooms are available, we can place students, but there is a cap based on teacher caseload. Is that correct, Kim?
Yes. And the other thing that she shared with me, Matt, because honestly, Emily and I had a conversation this morning because I had her evaluating a child to try to hope that they could come before being recommended. And the issue that she said that impacts students that are expelled is that the kids that are expelled are on a proficiency-based system that's asynchronous, and that the state has not approved that for middle school. So our pilot right now, as Matt alluded to, it supports students as an alternative to Blythewood Academy, but it would not support students that are expelled the way that the high school platform works because it's proficiency based. But she said, so I said, okay, well, what will we need to do for it to work? And she said that staffing has been her request. She feels that if her program were to have additional staff and she was able to keep the behavioral needs separate from just kids that are on an academic track, that we could then serve our students that are middle school expelled as well. So the handicap of us being able to do that right now is staff.
And thank you so much, because I think that was part of our concern, that we know that anytime you're trying to add any addition to it, you must have staff. And we know how it is with trying to have a proper staff in place. But what I would love for you guys to do is make sure that you capture all of the information and that you send it out to all of us. So we'll know as we're in the planning process, when we're looking at the budget, that maybe that's something we can consider trying to staff more, so we can make sure that our students are properly served, because we know they're going to misbehave, they're students. But we also want to make sure that we have some alternative programs in place to make sure that they're academically safe and secure and sound. So thank you so much.
I'm wondering if we can do two things, Dr. Scott. Number one, we could do a board brief around Richland 2's current use of virtual for middle school alternative placement, so that all board members are aware. And then two, we could either look at alternatives for staffing, or maybe do a budget request as part of the academics budget requests that will come to the board during budget discussions. What do you think? You think a board brief about the information, and then academics maybe doing a budget request so that it's in the mix for the discussion of the board?
The board brief will be great for something like that.
Okay. Do you like the idea of a budget request so that it ends up on the docket?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay. Okay, we will do
Absolutely.
that. Okay.
And then to your point, Morrison, Dr. Manigo asked if we could, if she could appeal to our committee also to have some interventionist support, because I know she said that that's another limitation whenever they are reviewing the academic transcripts of students in middle school that require, let's say, reading assistance or math assistance. In the past, they had support from interventionists to provide that support, but they no longer have interventionists helping with that model. And so that limits students from being able to receive that additional layer of support. So
Okay.
as we are examining ways with budgets and different things, that's one thing that she asked if she could appeal to have some support with intervention as well.
So I don't disagree with that. I think that because because the virtual school kind of counts like a school, they had an opportunity to appeal prior to. So Matt
Okay.
and I need to look and see, did she already request that, and was it
Yes.
granted? And then, I'm gonna work with Nancy to see what I want to make sure that on Dr. Scott's behalf, that we put the right budget request in front of the
Yes.
board. So I want to make sure to see what she's already appealed for through other
Okay.
avenues. Yeah.
Okay. Sounds good.
And
I just
thank you
told her
so
I would
much,
do it.
Request.
because that was going to be my piece too. Are we going to also add an additional for that support system? So that was just discussed. So thank you so much.
Mhm.
And two, I think it's great that you guys actually included her in on the conversation and the piece, because it will be her staff and her group that's actually doing the work. So we
Absolutely.
don't want to come together and create something and then it's not manageable for her department. So thank
Correct.
you.
All right. The fun part, new business. We like to go on some field trips. So, Dr. Scott, we have a couple opportunities. Kershaw County, their continuous learning center that is doing some very innovative things and have kind of become a hub for the state. A lot of tours they're presenting. And also Lexington too. We work closely with them in their New Bridge Academy. But Kim and I are ready to go visit. We weren't sure what your schedule looked like, if you'd like to join us, or if you'd like to create a report based on our visits, but we'd like to get your guidance before we lock into a date and time. What are your thoughts?
My thoughts are, let's do it. Let's go and have an opportunity to visit both locations.
Mhm.
I would like to be a part of both visits because I think you can better communicate and speak from something that you've seen and experienced
Absolutely.
firsthand. So what I would like for
Absolutely.
you guys to do is put a few dates and times together. And I'm not sure if you guys would like to do both on the same day because they're in two different directions, or if you would like to do, one day and one the second day. Actually,
Okay.
for my schedule, since Kershaw's on one end and Lexington's on the other, I would love to see if maybe we can do 2 days. If that does not work for you guys, I am very flexible and open to let's just knock it out in one day and be done with it. So if you guys can just send me some options,
Okay.
and we can do that. I would like to suggest that we do it probably maybe 2 weeks out after spring break, because you'll just be returning from that time, and then get with me with some dates and let's make it work.
Absolutely. I'm going to reach out to both of them and follow up. If we did look at 2 days, and to your point for travel time, is morning a better option for you to go visit in the morning?
Yes, that would be
Okay.
perfect.
I'm gonna check with them. I know one thing when I spoke to them most recently, we all know that we're coming up on state testing. And
Yes.
so it may be sooner than later. So I'll definitely reach out today and tomorrow. And it could be as soon as the week after spring break, but I'll say, can we look a couple weeks after? But as soon as we have a couple of dates scheduled in, I'll get this to you.
Okay, that would be perfect. Thank you.
Okay,
Absolutely.
and Matt, I'm just gonna interject one more time. For the
Mhm.
sake of the minutes and for our agenda, I'm just gonna reiterate that 5.3 and 5.4 were actually covered when we
Yes.
were discussing 4.1 and 4.2.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you. And then finally, items for our next meeting. Of course, we hope to have our field trips under our belt, and we look for feedback and notes from Continuous Learning Center and Newbridge Academy. Do those agenda items work for you, Dr. Scott?
Yes.
Uh, Anything else you'd like to add for our agenda for our next meeting?
No, I think next meeting should just be more of a follow-up, because we have a
Absolutely.
lot on this agenda and we have a lot of work that you guys are actually doing. Again, you guys are doing the work. You're making it very easy for me. So let's just have this meeting as more of a follow-up, and just when we schedule the next meeting, let's make sure we've already had those visits, and
Yes,
that's
ma'am.
something we can actually share. So it would be more of a follow-up
That'll be our
to what we've
debrief at our
already
next
done.
committee meeting. Absolutely. So with that, friends, a lot covered today. And if you're good with it, we will adjourn at this point, Dr. Scott.
Yes, and once again, I want to say thank you for the time that the entire committee has actually put into this work, because we're doing the work. We are truly doing the work. And I think not only is the district seeing it, the students are actually seeing the work and talking about it as well. So thank you so much. And with that said, we can adjourn the meeting, unless you guys have something that
We
you'd like to
appreciate your
share.
time. I'll work on those board briefs. We'll get this squared away and we'll be ready to submit them ASAP. Okay.
Thank you
All
guys
right.
so much. I
Thank
do
you.
appreciate all of you. Thanks.
Thank you.
Take care.
Okay,
Thank you.
bye-bye.
Bye-bye.